Hey, good afternoon and welcome to Yeshiva YouTube. Iyun I'm seeing on today's Benzion Nedarim, Daf Iyun Aleph, number 71. The Gemara on Iyun Aleph and Aleph deals with a case where the woman took a nether and the artist died. The person, the man who was engaged to her, he heard the nether. He didn't hear the nether. He was engaged to her. She made a nether, and then he died. So the Mishnah says that no matter if she marries 100 people within that day, right, you only have 24 hours to revoke it. So the father and the new husband revoked the nether. Now, the 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 Gemara brings a brisa to support Shmuel. Shmuel gives a source for this halacha that even 100 people in that day, she gets divorced and engaged to 100 people. The last arus and the father are made for jointly. Um, and the Gemara brings a brisa to support Shmuel. And the first half of the brisa seems to be the support for Shmuel. The second half of the brisa seems not to have anything to do with Shmuel. Art Scroll learns that the second half of the brisa, let's read the second half of the brisa. The brisa says, the second half of the brisa, towards the bottom, Ayin Aleph and Aleph, Shama Ba'ila Beheferlo. The husband heard about it, he was Mayfair. The father didn't get a chance to hear about it. And then the husband died. Beit Shammai holds, right, that since the husband heard about it and even revoked it, so therefore, the father didn't hear about it. That's the important point. He didn't hear about it yet. So even though normally we say Nisrokin Rishus La'av, that when the husband dies, everything goes back to the father because he was originally at the Chazaka. He was the one that was originally charged of an Nedarim before she got engaged. Here you can't say that. According to Beit Hillel, we'll say. According to Beit Shammai, that the father gets a chance to go ahead and revoke the nether. He's revoking his part, and the part he inherited from the husband. Even though the husband is dead, he revoked it. He acted already. It doesn't make a difference. The father inherited, and he has to revoke not only my part, but the husband's part. No problem. But according to Beis Hillel, Omrim Ein Yakalaf. Beis Hillel says he can't be made. And the Gemara explains what are they arguing about. We already saw this machlokas where the Gemara asked, right, Miklish Kalish or Megas guys, how does it work, the partnership? We answered, it's Machlokas Beis Shammai itself, from this brisa itself we brought. And the Gemara explains over here the same Machlokas. Beis Shammai says, Ayin Aleph from Beis Megas guy. It's a lo Megas guy, it's meaning make, like the Gemara said, Miklish Kalish. Right, I explained in that place, where the Gemara is really explaining that Beis Shammai holds that the Shutvus that the father and the Aris have is basically a 50-50 partnership. He has 50% rights, he has 50% rights. And therefore, each one has the ability to cut away half. Right? The Gemara's case was talking about where she took a nether from 2 olives. So he cuts away 1 olive and he cuts away another olive. In this case, right, the husband heard about it, he revoked the nether, he revoked his half. And the father didn't hear about it. And this Rogan was just la'av. So therefore, the part that he inherits from the husband, even though the husband already revoked, he has to go ahead and revoke his part that he now heard about. And he has to revoke the husband's part because it came from the husband, because it already was nira la'aris. It was heard by the aris. Not only was it heard by the aris, he even revoked it. He acted upon it, but the father has to re-revoke the part of the husband because the husband's part in the nether was already crystallized. His part was crystallized once he heard the nether, and certainly once he revoked the nether. So therefore, the father has to do. He just has to say one time, "I'm revoking my chelik and the chelik of the husband." But he could do that because Beis Shammai holds Megas guy is they each split it 50-50. So he did his part, and the father the father had 50%, and now 50% of the baal goes to the father. According to Beis Hillel, no, they hold. We don't say Megas guy. It's not that they each own 50%. It's that they own 100% together. They're jointly responsible for the welfare of this arusa, of this girl who, right? She has a father. Right, she's not in the rishus of her father anymore. She's not in the rishus of her husband. She's somewhere in between. So there's both of them, so to speak, for certain things. Certain halachas, she's still in the rishus of her father. Certain things, she's in the rishus of her fiance, the person engaged to her. So they jointly doing this. They jointly do 100%. So the rationale of Beis Hillel is that once the husband heard about it, and certainly once he revoked it, he's an active player over here. So even though normally he said in stroke no rishus la'av, right, when he didn't hear about it, when the husband didn't hear about it, or when the husband already acted, when the father already acted, that would be different. But here the father didn't even hear about it, and the husband acted already. So therefore, right, the partnership started already because he revoked it. The Gemara says even if he just heard about it, the partnership starts, right? So their partnership started. So he has the father has a partnership with that husband. Now the problem is that the husband already revoked it, and the father did nothing. So you're left with like a lame duck over here. You're left with a neder which is half revoked, half not revoked. And the father, right, he can't jointly do it with the husband because they have to do it simultaneously. And the husband is no longer alive, right? Even though he revoked it, but he doesn't stand, he's not there presently. So at the time of the father's revoking it, the husband's out of the picture. So what do you want to say? Nisrokin Rishus La'av? But you can't say Nisrokin Rishus La'av because it has to be a neder that was jointly owned by both of these people together. And since the father never heard about it, so they never jointly owned the neder together. So when Nisrokin Rishus La'av, he can't join together with anybody else. Now the article explains, they add in words in the second half of the brisa. They say we're talking about a case where the husband revoked it, and then the father didn't hear about it, and then the husband died, and then they add in, and then she got engaged to a second guy. And the question is, and the way they read the brisa is, Beis Shammai says the father revokes with the new aris. The father revokes by himself, right? And according to Beis Hillel, in Yochel HaHafer, it doesn't mean that there's no way out. It just means that he can't do it by himself. He has to do it with the new aris. And they learn the second half of the brisa as a proof to Shmuel and a proof to the original Mishnah that we talked about in Ayin Aleph, where we're talking about where she was divorced and re-engaged within the same day. But the simple explanation has nothing to do with each other. And what the proof from Shmuel was from the first part of the brisa. The second part of the brisa is talking about what we talked about before. The Gemara is just quoting it because that's part of the brisa. And I believe it really reveals, Machlokes Beis Shammai Beis Hillel, right, reveals the nature of why the Torah required a shutfus, partnership, to be made for her Nedarim when she's in Arusa. According to Beis Shammai, right, the reason the Torah gave reshus to the father and the husband, make his guy, each get 50%, is that in some aspects she's still in her father's house because she's not married. In another aspect, she's still in her Naris's house because she's engaged. So they each jointly have responsibility for her. They jointly have responsibility. He's half responsible. He's half responsible. According to Beis Hillel, they have a different perception of the nature of an arusa, a woman who's engaged, right? What's the reason the Torah? I'm telling you the reason. What's the reason that Hafaras Nedarim was instituted in the Torah? The Torah allows a father to be made for the Nedarim of his daughter, a husband to be made for the Nedarim of his wife. Why are they allowed? It's a convenience, right? Like we said, it's not revoking the neder completely. It's not nullifying the neder. It's blocking the neder temporarily. You don't have to do anything about it. You could be mater neder if you want to get rid of it, but it's blocked. The neder is blocked. It's mutter for her to engage in whatever she forbade herself in. Because women are very whimsical and they forbid things among themselves very easily. So we don't have to always go to a base. It's embarrassing for a woman to go into a base. And so the husband, if within 24 hours, the husband or the father has the power for his daughter to revoke these nedarim. However, so therefore, when she's a daughter, until she's a nara, the father has just, and when she's married, whatever age she is, the husband can do it. Now, when she's narusa, the Torah is not saying, right, because we're not sure which one she's in. She's half in the shus, half of the father, half of the shus of the husband. So therefore, both of them jointly should do it. Make his guy. No, mitlash kalash means they're 100% responsible together. And the most vulnerable position a woman can be in is when she's engaged, right? When she's growing up in her father's house. She's a young girl. She feels kind of comfortable in her father's house. When she's married, she feels comfortable in her husband's house. When she's in this middle stage of erusin, she's not really sure who she's with. Who's responsible for her father? Because she didn't get married yet. The father has to pay for the wedding and walk her down to the chuppah. But the husband, really, they're in a relationship now. You know, they're calling each other on the phone. You know, according to the rabbi's directions, once a week, twice a week, or maybe visiting each other once every 2 weeks, once every 3 weeks, according to the Chazon Ish. So they're not really seeing each other, but they have a relationship now, not like her father. So the idea of shutfus is a whole new dimension. This parak, where she really primarily talks about shutfus of Nara Murasa, right? Why are we so interested in Nara Murasa? It's like a Jewish chiddush that she's in a very vulnerable position as an arusa because she's not fully in anyone's reshus. She's like ambiguity over here, and she has no one to really protect her from her nedarim over here. So therefore, they double the protection to say the father and the husband should join together and be a force behind her and be made for the nedarim jointly and be responsible. In this way, they're joined together, not just to make for a nedarim, but to take care of the woman because she's in a vulnerable position like now. That's the way I understand this shutfus. Hope you enjoyed today's share. See you in the next one.